I'm Diane Macedo. Thanks for streaming with us. We want to get right to our top story and the urgent push for action on guns amid a surge in gun violence across the country. The House has passed a sweeping gun control package following emotional testimony on Capitol Hill, where we heard from grieving parents from Uvalde and a fourth grader who survived that school shooting. The House measure would raise the minimum age for buying certain semi-automatic rifles in the U.S. to 21, but it's expected to fail in the Senate as a group of bipartisan senators race to try to reach a deal of their own. Our congressional correspondent Rachel Scott has the latest.
On Capitol Hill, searing and gut-wrenching testimony. The parents of 10-year-old Lexi Rubio describing the last moments with their daughter at an awards ceremony the morning of the Uvalde massacre.
We took photos with her before asking her to pose for a picture with her teacher, Mr. Reyes. That photo, her last photo ever, was taken at approximately 10:54 a.m.
They rushed to the school, waiting for hours, only to learn Lexi was among the 19 children killed.
We seek to raise the age to purchase these weapons from 18 to 21 years of age. We seek red flag laws, stronger background checks. Somewhere out there, there's a mom listening to our testimony, thinking, I can't even imagine their pain, not knowing that our reality will one day be hers, unless we act now.
And then there was 11-year-old Mia Cerrillo, a fourth grader who survived the Uvalde shooting by playing dead.
He shot my friend that was next to me, and I thought he was going to come back to the room, so I grabbed the blood and put it all over me.
And Zanetta Everhart, a mother who nearly lost her son in the Buffalo mass shooting.
If after hearing from me and the other people testifying here today does not move you to act on gun laws, I invite you to my home to help me clean Zaire's wounds.
She told us she will keep fighting for change.
We go back and we keep talking about it. We don't let it go.
As lawmakers left the hearing, I asked them if they supported that plea from the parents to raise the age on AR-15 style rifles to 21.
No. The stories are tragic. All that does is take away the constitutional rights of 19 and 20-year-olds in the United States.
We have people in the military using weapons when they're 18, and I mean, that's good enough for a military. I think that's the way it should be for law-abiding citizens.
Another witness, called by Republicans, lost her 19-year-old son to gun violence, insisting guns were not the problem.
Nothing in these bills do anything to make us safer or address the mental health crisis in this country.
President Biden on Jimmy Kimmel urging Americans to head to the polls in November.
You got to make sure that this becomes a voting issue. What we're going to do on us with assault weapons and have to be able to have 300 rounds in a magazine. And I mean, what you say on those things is going to determine how I'm going to vote for you.
And Diane, hours after that emotional testimony played out, the House did pass sweeping gun control measures that included raising the age to purchase a semi-automatic weapon from 18 to 21. It will likely fail in the Senate, where a small group of bipartisan senators are now racing to strike a deal on a more limited measure. Diane?
All right, Rachel Scott, thank you. And the high-stakes January 6th hearing begins tonight, featuring dramatic, never-before-seen video, as well as live witnesses and testimony from Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump. We'll also hear from the documentary filmmaker who was there with his crew when the mob stormed the Capitol. Chief Washington correspondent Jonathan Karl has an exclusive look at that video in this preview of what's to come.
Freedom! Exclusively on ABC, we're seeing extraordinary, never-before-seen video of the January 6th attack on the Capitol, taken by documentary filmmaker Nick Quested, who turned over hours of footage to the January 6th committee. He was right there with the Proud Boys and others as they marched on the Capitol. He captured the chaos outside.
I am not allowed to say what's going to happen today because everyone's just going to have to watch for themselves. But it's going to happen. Something's going to happen, one way or the other.
The first barricades going down. Clashes on the inaugural platform, a rioter falling off the balcony. The police assaulted, rioters using flagpoles as weapons. Reaction when the building is breached.
We have stormed the Capitol! Right on!
And inside the Capitol,
all
a member of his film crew capturing the scene outside Nancy Pelosi's office. The video was shot just minutes after Speaker Pelosi was evacuated from the building by the Capitol Police. Quested himself was assaulted, a rioter seen here trying to smash his camera. In footage previously released by the Justice Department, Quested videotaped Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio as he was released from prison and on the eve of the riot, meeting in an underground parking garage on Capitol Hill with another militant leader, Stuart Rhodes of the Oath Keepers. On day one of the hearings, the committee hopes to document the horror of the day on Capitol Hill and Donald Trump's failure to do anything to stop it.
You'll never take back our country with weakness.
In addition to Quested, they'll hear live testimony from Capitol Police Officer Caroline Edwards, who was injured when rioters broke through the barricades. And we will hear taped testimony from some of those closest to Trump when it all went down, including his daughter Ivanka and son-in-law Jared Kushner. The committee plans several more hearings this month with the aim of showing that this was far more than a riot. It was more than an attack on the Capitol. It was the culmination of a months-long effort led by the president himself, Donald Trump, to overturn a presidential election. Diane?
All right, Jonathan Karl, thank you. And ABC's Alex Prochet joins me live now from Washington for more on tonight's hearing. Alex, the committee has focused on this final call between former President Trump and former Vice President Mike Pence. What do we know about that conversation and the context surrounding it?
Well, Diane, that is going to be an integral part of what this committee focuses in on. And we know that this call happened before those Trump supporters stormed the Capitol. We also know that former Vice President Mike Pence didn't discuss it with aides. And what's also interesting about this call is that for 15 to 20 minutes during it, we know the former president actually left the room specifically so his aides could not hear. And so this committee is going to be working together to try to piece together what happened during that conversation. The guidance that we're getting from the committee chair, Benny Thompson, is that a lot of former Vice President Pence's aides are cooperating, so they might actually not need him to testify as to what was said during that conversation.
Now, Alex, the big question here is whether the committee will recommend that the Justice Department investigate former President Trump for a crime. So what does the committee need to show? What would they need to show in these hearings to support that potential recommendation?
Well, the big nexus, the big connection that they're going to have to show is a communication and a coordination between the political actors and the people carrying out the violence that day. And so a key question that's going to be asked is, where did the funding come for the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers for the violence that happened that day, the traveling, the stockpiles and other logistics that were carried out that day? That's going to be a key question that was asked. One of the things that we've already heard from Nick Quested, who is that documentary filmmaker, we know they're going to see new video, never before seen video that he shot that day, was one of the things that he said was those men that came there believed they were there carrying out the former president's will. And so this committee is going to be trying to draw a link between that will and what they actually did that day.
Now, Alex, the committee's faced some pushback and even legal challenges from witnesses who have defied subpoenas. So do they plan to ask former President Trump or former Vice President Mike Pence to testify?
Well, Diane, and bear with me because we're dealing with some furniture moving here, so it might be hard to hear me. But what we've gotten so far is we know there's been a slew of folks that are close to the president's inner circle: Mark Meadows, Dan Scavino, Peter Navarro, Steve Bannon, who have all ignored subpoenas. But right now, the guidance that we've gotten from the committee chair, Benny Thompson, is that he doesn't know if they will request that the former vice president testifies before this committee. And as of right now, there is no ask into the former president to testify either.
All right, Alex Prochet at Capitol Hill for us. Thanks, Alex. And I want to bring in ABC News contributors, former Republican Congresswoman Barbara Comstock of Virginia and former Democratic Senator Heidi Heitkamp from North Dakota for more on this. Thank you both for being here. Barbara, I want to start with you. Republican lawmakers have called the committee illegitimate and partisan because Nancy Pelosi blocked some of their appointments, including some congressmen who have since been subpoenaed by the committee. So what does that do for the credibility of these hearings?
Well, actually, this committee is bipartisan. And that has not been credible. Already the Supreme Court, when that argument was made to them, they said, no, this is a legitimate committee, and Donald Trump had to turn over some documents to it. So I know I've heard Elise Stefanik say that. I would note Elise is not a lawyer, that basically her talking points come from Mar-a-Lago these days, and that's just simply inaccurate. So the facts are what's going to be the strength of these hearings. And I think it's going to take everyone back to those 2 months after the election leading up to January 6th and just see the minute by minute of that day on January 6th, because so many people, for example, if people watch Fox, they are not particularly familiar with all of this. So I hope, and I certainly am happy that ABC is and other networks are going to be covering this closely, because it'll be unfiltered, it'll be factual, and you're even going to see, members of Congress's tape-recorded conversations where they were acknowledging they were afraid that the Trump people would be violent and that there would be unrest. That certainly Kevin McCarthy and others thought what the president himself did was wrong. And I think that time frame, those 3 hours when Donald Trump did nothing and was reportedly gleeful, that is going to be in stark contrast to what was happening on Capitol Hill, with people being beaten and officers, people who claim they support police, yet here they were allowing this to happen. So I think you will see the gross dereliction of duty of Donald Trump and his involvement throughout the process, and his refusal to listen to his own attorneys and his own staff and his own campaign staff who told him he lost, and his own family for that matter, probably.
Heidi, why is the committee holding this hearing now and in prime time? What do you think they're hoping to accomplish?
I think that they want to set the record straight for history at this moment in time. It also, we can't escape that we're going into the midterms. There's still a whole lot of Donald Trump loving, and I think this is an opportunity to say, are you going to stand with democracy, or are you going to stand with an insurrectionist? And I think that that is what the Republicans are most afraid of. We've seen during this primary season for the midterms that Donald Trump still plays an outsized role in the Republican Party. You can't watch this video without seeing a Trump flag or a Trump sign. This idea that it was someone other than Trump supporters who stormed the Capitol and led the insurrection is absolutely wrong. And so I think that this is both for the historic record. They've been working at this a long time. I think that when you look at the timing, there's been a lot of people saying, why didn't you do this earlier? I'm not one of those people. I think it's better to do it right than fast. And I think that the committee has been very disciplined in how they've approached this. I think Barbara outlined exactly what's going to happen tonight. But I think more and more, there is this sense that if we do not want this kind of government in the future, government by insurrection, we need to expose this before the midterms, because it is critically important voters understand what happened on January 6th.
And Barbara, when you're looking ahead to the midterms and the timing of these hearings, you're a Republican. You do not support President Trump. You did not, offer any kind of support for what happened on January 6th. Do you worry about the ramifications of these hearings and Democrats, what they might do to try to use these hearings heading into the midterms, not only for Trump supporters, but Republicans in general?
No, I don't, because I think they're very important for history. And those who are going to continue to be election deniers, I think many of them will fail. And it'll hurt Republicans, yes, but I think in the long run, it'll be better for Republicans, because when you look at Donald Trump, a man who did not win the popular vote either time and only got 47% as an incumbent president, if these hearings or his other actions just peel off 2-3%, get him down to 44, 43 in a general election, he can't win. And even if he can win a Republican nomination, I think more and more Republicans, even those who supported him, are coming to the realization that this is the sorest of sore losers, that he's just kind of out of control. He's now saying that the Georgia election primary that Brian Kemp won by 50 percentage points, 3-1. He's saying that was fraudulent. This is an absurd man who gets smaller by the day. And I think history will not be kind to him, and nor should it, but Republicans shouldn't be either.
Heidi, if the committee recommends that the Justice Department investigate the former president for a crime here, what kind of precedent would that set, and what would the potential political ramifications be?
You know, it's so much different than the time when we had the Watergate hearings and people like Goldwater would go to the White House and say, it's kind of over. You need to step up here and take responsibility for your actions. You know, we don't have statesmen like that anymore. And so it will continue to percolate publicly. But, you know, I'm an old prosecutor, and I believe if a crime's been committed, it should be prosecuted. And I think that, you know, the committee is going to be well-sourced. It's going to have its investigative tools that it's used to advance. And I think that in the end of the day, if that's the recommendation, I think the Department of Justice has to take that seriously, regardless of political ramifications.
All right, former Senator Heidi Heitkamp, former Congresswoman Barbara Comstock, thank you both. And ABC News Live will carry that committee hearing live tonight, starting at 8 Eastern. Coming up, the new headline from the CDC about COVID reinfections and what it could mean heading into the summer. Dr. Patel joins us live when we come back. Welcome back. New data shows Americans keep getting reinfected with COVID as more variants emerge. According to an ABC analysis and compilation of state-provided data, more than 1.6 million cases of reinfection have been reported across 24 states, and those numbers are still climbing. ABC News medical contributor and physician at Stanford Children's Health, Dr. Alok Patel, joins me live now for more on this. Dr. Patel, thanks for being here. You know, back in May, the CDC said reinfections are still possible even with protection from prior infection and vaccination. So how soon after having COVID can you be reinfected, and does it make a difference if you're also vaccinated or not at that point?
Well, good morning, Diane. You know, I think the definition of when you can be reinfected after COVID consistently is changing, with some people saying, oh, within 90 days, you should be protected, whereas once upon a time, it was several months. You know, pre-Omicron and Delta, we had some early studies saying that if you had a previous infection, you were up to 80 to 90% protected from reinfection. That has completely changed. And I think we're at a point now where we need to redefine our metrics. And generally, the expectation for people out there for what natural immunity or vaccine-acquired immunity really means, because you mentioned 1.6 million reinfections. Fortunately, the reinfections look like they're less severe. But we know with these new variants, they're able to escape immunity while we have waning antibody levels and relaxed attitudes, people going back out there without a mask, while we still have 80% of this country at a high level of community transmission, according to the CDC. So you put all that together, and we are going to be living with COVID. It's here. We just have to figure out how we're going to approach this on a seasonal basis.
Now, an ABC News analysis of data collected by the CDC found breakthrough COVID cases and even deaths have reached the highest point since vaccines were introduced, with more cases occurring among the vaccinated in March and April of 2022 than among the unvaccinated. So can you walk us through what exactly that means, and if you think booster shots could help lower that risk?
You know, Diane, that portion of vaccinated versus unvaccinated is tricky and has become a talking point for people who are playing down the effectiveness of vaccines. Simply put, when the majority of the country has received a vaccine, even partially vaccinated, meaning one shot, not two, or two vaccines and not a booster, then inevitably when we see these reinfections and hospitalizations, we're going to see them in vaccinated individuals. We are talking about people who may have gotten a vaccine in early 2021, now with waning immunity levels, and with Omicron BA2, 1, 2121, 4, and 5 in a smaller percentage out there. So that is going to happen. That's why we need to pay close attention to what the plan is going to be going into fall. A lot of us are going to be closely watching that June 28th FDA meeting, where they're going to talk about a strategy for possibly variant-specific boosters, including news about Moderna.
Now, let's talk about that, because Moderna says that its new COVID booster shot shows a superior, quote, response to the Omicron variant. Could that make a big difference in these reinfection rates?
You know, I'm glad that you acknowledged that it was them saying it was superior, because we want to see the data. You know, that basically what Moderna is introducing right now is what we call a bivalent vaccine, meaning part of it is the ancestral SARS-CoV-2 strain, another part's that Omicron strain, but it's the first version of Omicron. We are now dealing with all these stepchildren of Omicron. So the question remains is this going to be what we need going into fall? Moderna is saying 8 to 9 times more protective. We'll see what the FDA says, but Diane, at the end of the day, if we don't have congressional funding, we're not going to be able to get out there, but we need to see, is this going to be the protection we need, or is this going to turn into what we see with an annual flu shot?
All right, Dr. Alok Patel, always great to have your analysis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up, as millions of parents face a baby formula shortage, we're now learning that it took 1 year after an alert to finally recall the formula in question and shut down the Abbott plant making it. Hear what Abbott is saying this morning when we come back. Welcome back to ABC News Live. ABC News has learned that Abbott Nutrition and the FDA were made aware of some whistleblower allegations a full year before the company's massive recall and plant shutdown. A complaint dating back to February 2021 raised quality control and contamination concerns at that plant, but the facility wasn't shut down until February of this year. Abbott tells ABC News they investigated at the time and, quote, have not been able to confirm the allegations. The FDA acknowledges the timeline keeps shifting. That plant in Sturgis, Michigan has now restarted operations as millions of American families deal with the ongoing baby formula shortage. An investigation is underway after a military aircraft crashed in California about 150 miles east of San Diego. The Osprey was carrying 5 Marines, but details about any injuries or fatalities have not been released. This comes after another Osprey crash killed 4 Marines back in March. And a man is now facing attempted murder charges after allegedly plotting to kill Justice Brett Kavanaugh. The man showed up outside of Kavanaugh's home, then called 911 on himself. Senior national correspondent Terry Moran has the details.
FBI agents searched the home of a California man who now faces attempted murder charges for allegedly plotting to assassinate Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, driven by abortion rights and gun violence.
Units be advised for Thornapple, the caller came to kill Supreme Court Justice Rex Kavanaugh.
Investigators say 26-year-old Nicholas Roski, clad in black and carrying a backpack and suitcase, arrived outside Kavanaugh's home at around 1 a.m. early Wednesday. Roski then allegedly called 911, saying he had a gun on him and wanted to, quote, kill a specific Supreme Court justice. Shortly afterwards, U.S. Marshals already on scene arrested Roski. In his possession, a Glock handgun, a tactical knife, pepper spray, duct tape, and zip ties, as well as burglary tools.
It's obviously is behavior that we will not tolerate. Threats of violence and actual violence against the justices, of course, strike at the heart of our democracy.
The FBI says that Roski admitted to investigators that he was upset about the Uvalde school shooting and that leaked draft of a Supreme Court opinion that could overturn Roe v. Wade.
What do we do? Raise up, fight back.
In the days right after that draft opinion leaked, protests began outside of some Supreme Court justices' homes, including Kavanaugh's. In response, Attorney General Merrick Garland authorized increased security for justices, and the Senate unanimously passed legislation to extend security to their families. Republicans are now urging Democrats to bring that measure to the floor for a vote in the House.
Our thanks to Terry Moran. I'm Diane Macedo. Do stay with us as ABC News Live continues with more news, context, and analysis after this.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.